Hello, I'm actor, performer, writer, comedian, broadcaster, Ben Volchok. Everyone's favourite portrayer of the character of the Orphan in Sandro and Zach's Oldie But a Goodie. Some of you might remember me from such classic moments as, I don't think the name of your podcast really lines up with my values, and hey, I think it would be better if you watch some quality films on this show. However, I'm not here to talk about the films or the podcast, really. I'm here to talk about my own performance, my own role, that of the Orphan, the popular figure of ridicule sometimes, but affection mostly, that has been accompanying Sandro and Zach on their time-traveling cinematic journey. So as a companion piece to the commentary that Sandro and Zach themselves, the erstwhile hosts of the podcast, will be providing, I thought I'd add my own little insights into what made these little quotes so special. Play clip 1.
Orphan? Does that mean my mummy and daddy are fucking dead? Sorry for swearing, my normal child.
Yeah, so I remember where I was when I recorded this one. I was at home, as I was most of the times when I recorded material for this podcast. It was probably an evening. I think I recorded most of these on the same day. Anyway, this really gets to, it's the first clip of this little compilation, but I think it really gets to the heart of what defines this orphan, quite literally defines this orphan, as in his parents are no longer with him. And something that inspired me, I suppose, to instill the orphan with such a sense of discovery and, realization was this idea set about by Socrates that a life unexamined is not worth living. And this orphan really is examining his own life in very much the first time. And this sense of bewilderment and kind of acknowledgement and really truly grasping and what he is for the first time perhaps in his life was something that I thought I would bring to my performance and characterization for this particular clip. I think it's one of my favorites. So yeah, thanks for including it in the show. Let's move on.
Would you like a loaf of bread or an apple?
Now, this one's really sweet. This one is, seeing the orphan's kind of altruistic, philanthropic side. Even though he has no parents, he has to kind of survive day to day on the streets. He's still imbued with a sense of generosity that I think countermands the principles that you normally might expect. You might see this figure who needs, this figure of want, and you might think, oh, we must provide for this figure. But in fact, I have subverted these expectations and these connotations, these notions of society, perhaps, that then the orphan becomes the figure who is providing. Despite the struggles that the orphan figure is going through, I thought it would be quite an interesting sense of light and shade, to the world of this boy that would then, collect inside of him these nuances of really, wanting to give rather than to be given. And so, yeah, would you like a loaf of bread or an apple? It's really simple foods, something that he can still acquire, but still something that he must acquire. This resourceful character, this character who can sort of pull himself up by the bootstraps and really survive.
Wow!
Now, gosh, you got to remember that this boy is a boy. This child is a child, and at the end of the day, you got to remember that any sort of misadventures that he might have, any kind of rumbles he might get into, the scraping by on the skin of his teeth. He's still at his very core a child, and this really speaks to the sense of wonder that all children possess. Can't help but being surprised by something that's going on because he hasn't, despite all of the experience he might have had in the situation that he's been thrust into by society, he's still naive and he's still kind of bereft of the experience that an adult might possess. And so really I thought I'd really push this angle of, oh wow, you see he's still got this childlike sense of amazement within him. We really, all of us, need to be in touch with that inner sense of childlike wonder. And so I thought it might be a little bit inspiring, So I'm glad you picked up on that and decided to include this in the compilation. Thanks for that. Why don't we check out the next clip?
It's a mystery. It's a mystery.
Now, see, on the surface, you might think that this is quite an obvious parallel to clip number 3, the wow factor. But in actuality, I think they're more worlds apart than you might at first imagine. This is more of a cynical side. This is more of a jaded kind of... If the first clip of the wow was, oh my god, I haven't experienced this before, this is a totally new experience to me. Clip number 4, the one you just heard, it's a mystery. It's more of a resigned sort of, we'll never get to the bottom of, the never understood parts of the universe. It's really a way of expressing that for all of your knowledge and wisdom, and yes, this child has acquired a little bit of it amongst his travels. Really, at the end of the day, even if he was a wizened old man who had gone through the hardships of, hell and back, that really, even then, there are some things that are unexplained. For example, why do we always have to cut our toenails? We cut our toenails and then they grow, and then you just have to kind of cut them again. I don't understand why, you can't just cut them once, and that's it. Fingernails I kind of get, because they're, you use your hands quite a lot more than your feet. But toenails, I don't know. I don't know that we'll really ever get to the bottom of it. And so it's sort of phenomena like this that I wanted to kind of channel into this delivery of the line, it's a mystery. One of the things that kind of not many people would sort of pick up on, I think, with the way I play the Orphan is it's this polarity that I think gives the depth to the character that makes him, loved time and time again. No matter how many times these clips might be played over the course of the show, they come back to this core truth, this universality of experience, I suppose. I know I've said the word experience quite a number of times in a number of contexts, but it's really key. I think it's the integral. If I had to sum up the, essence of the character of the Orphan, it's something I keep in my head every time I, speak the lines and perform the lines, even if it's just audio. It's this sense of experience, and that everyone's experience is different, and that everyone's experience is multifaceted. And really it's a mystery. I think he's past the point of experience that he knows that some things in life will never be explained, at a sort of counterpoint to the previous wow. It's really, it's quite a fascinating, sort of juxtaposition, if you will. But at the same time, it's all contained in this one body, this one soul. And I think that's really what makes it tick, what makes it click.
I don't know what you're talking about, you blooming C-section.
Now, the Orphan doesn't often get angry. The Orphan is, happy-go-lucky, for the most part, but some things, cut deep. This is a traumatized child at the end of the day. This is someone whose parents have died, who's been thrust onto the streets. And so occasionally, his emotional responses might not be as considered as he might like. Sorry, that was my alarm to trim my toenails. Yeah, and so this was, he's been through the ringer, and something, I think this was in response to something Zach said that really hurt him, and I think he was also at the same time learning about swear words. Some people think that swear words are kind of a blight on language, but I think that they're an extra way of expressing how you feel. There's some emotions and situations that don't really lend themselves to more conversational parlance. And I think the case of the orphan really brings that into light because, there's all these sorts of things that he's been through that he can't put words to because, at the end of the day, he's also a child who might not know, of quite a full vocabulary. And so I think it was really quite good-hearted of Sandra and Zach to include a moment where the orphan learns, some might say, the more unsavory parts of the English language, but I would say it's color, it's it's a character, it's texture, and it's things maybe that he didn't know how to put into words before. And they went through the kind of regular words that we all sort of go to when we're feeling a little bit annoyed or and then it got to the C word, and they wanted to come up with a different C word. And so obviously kind of side by side, you'd see a reproductive system and you'd see, okay, there's the vulva, there's the vagina, but then what does that lead to? You get pregnancies, and then how else can you potentially, give birth is through a C-section. And I think it was this kind of lateral thinking, quick thinking that really epitomized much of the recording on this podcast. It's really, despite the lengths that are gone for all of the scripting of the show, sometimes a situation arises and you've just got to come up with something from the back of your head. And this was one of those happenings. And yeah, the C-section idea just kind of like logicked its way out through my mouth, and it really stuck because it was, again, it was playing to this inexperiencedness coupled with an experiencedness that really it's deeper than you think. And I was really privileged to be given such a juicy role for the duration of the season, and the bloomin', the bloomin', which is kind of like, it's not a full swear word, is it? It's really kind of like a minced oath. Instead of saying bloody, you say bloomin', and then you have C-section, which kind of replaced cunt. And it was this really endearing thing, despite the kind of ferocity, despite the ire in the orphan's voice. It was really actually quite an endearing facet to the boy. And it was, it became a hallmark moment because of this really culmination of the whirlwind of different parts of what make up a human being. Yeah, look, there's many, many more that I would love to talk to you about, but I think that's my time. So thank you so much for joining me on this special commentary of these 5 key clips of the Orphan's world. I hope to talk to you soon. Thanks so much.
Howdy, it's me, Selly McSeller, back again with another ad. Are you also sad that the Friday the 13th movies ended after number 4, the final chapter? Well, worry not, because over on patreon.com/oldie-but-a-goodie-pod, Zach and Sandro are finally reviewing Friday the 13th 5, A New Beginning. This one is a movie. It certainly is a movie, and they have thoughts and opinions about this movie, like in this clip right here. So when he kills the stutter guy, he moves that guy's body into the same bed as Robin.
It's so dumb.
And then stabs Robin, and then picks them both up, moves them to the goth's room, kills her, and then takes all 3 of them and moves them to another place to scare the final girl.
It's very dumb. Why is he moving around the bodies? He puts like 3 bodies in one room. Like, he kills one guy, hides him in a bedroom. Makes sense, right?
He did a Kevin Bacon. That's a Kevin Bacon. They did that in the first one.
That's classic Kevin Bacon right there.
Yeah.
But then the lady goes into the same room, very funny, gets in the same bed with the dead guy, turns around, oh my god, there's a dead guy, gets killed.
Classic.
But
Incredible.
then he decides to move those 2 bodies from that room. Very dumb. Why would he do that?
I don't know. There's no reason. Oh boy, Friday the 13th Part 5 is certainly a movie, and you can check out the episode on it right now at patreon.com/oldie-but-a-goodie-pod. There's going to be consistent Friday the 13th episodes for quite a few months now that the boys are back into it. I can't wait. Also get ad-free and early episodes there too. Yeehaw! I'm an American.